I don't exactly know how to start this since I am not a regular, but I am just going to get right into it. I most likely do not have much time left on this earth due to liver cancer that I believe was brought on by a career where I spent a lot of time around radioactive materials, and a few things that I did not fully understand at the time. All proper PPE was always worn, and all precautions were always taken. These things just happen, and I have come to terms with it over the past few years. Therefore, I am just going to spill the beans. No, there is no underwater secret magical base. No, they do not cloak as humans, they have zero interest or need to. No, they are not short gray humanoids, or lizard people. Aliens are very real, and they most certainly do live amongst us. The worst part being, it became mundane and I never really cared to share because it felt so normal and just the focus of my career. But now with a definite diagnosis, I don't care if I put myself in harm's way. It would merciful at this point to kill me before I start up radiation therapy again. I worked in an independent research laboratory separate from the United States and Canadian governments, but we had contracts, training, and security clearances from the United States government from 1996 to 2019, at least that is how long I worked there. My station was located in an underground national laboratory facility in East Tennessee. I am certain you will be able to figure out where with that information. No, it was not like Men in Black, you knew what you needed to know, on a need-to-know basis. No one really ever worked on the same projects, nor had the same contacts. I was never allowed to have any social media, nor speak about anything I did at work, normal top secret clearance business as far as I know. Please excuse any wait. I had prepared a lot of this in advance so I could get my thoughts straight, but I find myself wanting to add more and more details. Also, I worded some things strangely, so I am rephrasing some of it. I have been debating on doing this for a few months now. My career was focused on physiology, and international relations to an extent. Mostly with the Canadian, Mexican, and German governments. To start out, these aliens are not our friends, nor our foes. They are fairly harmless, and have helped us in the past. To name a few examples, the basics of radiation-based communication, radio comms, the beginnings of the Apollo program, the Manhattan Project, this is what destroyed our relationship with them, and a few other various projects and research. Have you ever noticed we nearly peaked in the late 60s with Apollo 11, and now we can't recreate it? We have since grown apart a bit for various reasons, and they are mostly just casual observers who try to not intervene with human relations. What I know about them physically. These mammals, and I call them mammals because that is what they are, stand around 6 feet to 6.5 feet tall for the males, and near 5.5 feet to 6 feet for the females. About on par with humans. They have rather lanky and slim body types, with none of them ever looking to be out of shape. I am not certain, but I assume they stick to a strict diet, or can only consume certain foods here on Earth. Some have called them dogmen or werewolves, but they do resemble canines in the face with varying lengths of fur on their bodies, shorter on the stomach, arms, legs. Longer on the chest, neck, cheeks. Being a physiology and natural science major, naturally I was extremely interested in their bodies, how they function, and I could go on all day describing them in great detail. Like how their hands are furred on top with clawed tips to their forefingers and thumb, as well as slightly webbed hands up to the first knuckle, and bald raised spots on their palms. I call them paw pads, as silly as that sounds. It is extremely eerie how human their bodies really are, but again, in my line of work you see how these parts of the bodies function, and if it works here, then it must work everywhere else with a similar gravity and oxygen composition. As for the fur, I was never told anything, but I am assuming their planet or wherever they come from must be quite cold. The canine-looking snout and ears are most likely just an early survival adaptation for a harsh environment. need for a heightened sense of smell, and more directed hearing with ears that can move to the sound without breaking line of sight. Most of them have brown or amber eyes, however I do distinctly remember seeing a report that I personally processed, burned, that stated a female with green eyes. Most of their colors seem to range within the autumn spectrum. Yes, that is a real classification within natural sciences, that being tans, reddish browns, cream colors, and darker browns as well. Their language sounds nearly Eastern European to a native English speaker like myself, and no, I never got the chance to learn much of their language. I was not paid to do so, so doing so would have been an immediate termination of my employment. But they do seem to understand most languages, mostly English, and as far as my recollection goes, they have been on this planet for several hundreds of years. Not the same ones, but their offspring and new arrivals. 50 to 60 years old is their normal lifespan, with very few making it past 65. What I know about them as pertained to my job: they were very hard to work with and do not have the best communication skills, or they just did not care to speak to us sometimes. We communicated only when necessary for research into their kind, as well as talking to them when they were flying too close to the sun, public encounters with their crafts. My job was pretty much as a babysitter. I had to not only study them, but also talk my way around problems that we had with them. You need to understand that they mean no harm, and are pretty much unarmed. Their kind did not revolutionize through war like we did. They built themselves up solely on curiosity, so they do not have a solid understanding on stealth and defense. However, as I said prior, they are extremely intelligent, especially when it comes to nuclear fusion/fission. Some of which are way over my head. I am not a nuclear scientist. All I know is that their crafts are nuclear powered with an isotope that is extremely close to uranium-235 with some very strange and unearthly differences, as I was told during a PowerPoint presentation. Yes, we had those every Monday. They have a few different crafts. The most obvious ones being the tic-tac or pill-shaped one. We called that a foxhound since it's a small, fast, and agile scouting ship used to test signal. It is manned, but usually with a crew of 2 to 4 individuals. Then there's the wolfhound, a much larger oblong saucer-shaped ship that is used as a telecom relay of sorts. A flying antenna, if you will. This type of ship also flies quite high in the atmosphere, nearly to the level of the ISS, and it floats along in orbit for usually 10-hour shifts before coming back to land, and then taking back off with a fresh crew. I believe the crew of a wolfhound is about 8 to 12 individuals, and many can be in orbit at once, 24/7. There are a few other ships, but I do not know much about them if I am being completely honest, but can go further into detail if anyone is interested. Just let me know. They are not here to harvest resources or take over the world. They just needed a base of operations for a telecommunications relay in the Milky Way galaxy, which they lovingly refer to as the 118th sector. As I said before, we used to work with them quite often. However, the government seems to no longer care about their existence, since they do not seem to enjoy speaking to us very much and just want to go on about their routines. They see all the wars, and impending nuclear war, and want nothing to do with it, knowing that they will be tricked once again into helping to build a super weapon that will destroy this planet. If the government cannot use them, then they serve no use. Simple as that. That's why they are still highly classified, but just shelved for now, like a project that we have given up on. And I see why. After knowing of their existence, and trying to work with them for over 20 years, you begin to see them as just another species found here on Earth. It gets nearly mundane at times when they don't answer, or don't respond within a timely manner. It feels like messaging a coworker for help, and they get back to you the next day. It gets infuriating and mundane. But I also understand their side. Why should they help us when we only want to destroy the planet we call home? They don't see us as less than them, they are just very weary of our word, and our intentions. My personal conspiracies. I do most certainly believe that their existence explains the sightings of werewolves, dogmen, and Bigfoot throughout history. Bigfoot is a bit of a stretch since they are tall and lanky, but stories seem to always become grander as time passes. Their kind have been here for so long, and they are always so direct and nearly playful at times, that I genuinely do believe they mean absolutely zero harm. They are obviously trained to speak with us, just as we are to them, so getting personal details out of them is nearly impossible with the older ones, or males in general. However, most females speak a bit softer and are more open to questions like how are you doing today or what are your parents' names, etc. And lastly, I think they are here to stay, even if humanity wipes itself out. The planet will eventually heal, even after nuclear war, and they will eventually inherit this planet. They cause so little issues, and interact so little with us, that I don't ever see the government fully releasing details on their existence, nor trying to make them flee.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile...
Are you a targeted individual? Have you had a paranormal encounter, or are the victim of an unregulated government experiment and would like to share your story with us? Would you like to send us some fan mail or a hate-filled rant? Do you have an idea for a future episode or wish to send a complaint to HR? Email us at atomicshaman@protonmail.com. Like, share, subscribe and be sure to check the notification bell. Follow the Atomic Shaman on Twitter at Motel and RV Park. Listen to Paranormal Green Text Stories on Atomic Shaman TTS on YouTube. Catch the live streams of Atomic Shaman Sweat Lodge only on Rumble.